Now I brought next video, that is tools of physics, in which let's see quickly about tool number 2. And tool number 2, let's say, that is called as differentiation. Now what do you mean by differentiation? What is the literal meaning? So let's quickly see. Differentiation means number one aspect, any physical quantity that will come in division form. So basics you will apply when anything it come in division form. Division form is also called as ratio. Clear? If any physical quantity come in division form, number one, this is a hint for you. Now once it come in division form, that is also called as slope. Like you have seen delta y by delta x in graphical language. Once there's a x and y and any line with making angle theta with the positive direction of x axis, that is called as slope. That is slope. Clear? And you can also make it equated to 10 theta or 10x. 10 theta or 10x, that is called as slope. Fine. So what is the other feature of differentiation? Once the differentiation, it will come the other thing you have analyzed about slope. Once it will come in a division form. Now next important thing is, if it will come in a division form, if denominator is t, then we use the word rate, 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 like rate of change of velocity. If you remember, rate of change of velocity. So rate word is there in the division form. The another thing is, once it will come, if it will come as delta x. Fine. Example, let's say delta v upon delta x. So the delta x come in a denominator, that is called as gradient. Now this particular quantity is called as velocity gradient. So when any quantity like it is expressed and in denominator x it will come, that is called as gradient. So please remember, when t it is there, it is rate, that is rate of change of velocity. When x it is there, it is called as gradient. So please mind it and always remember. Now next important aspect of it, if we have to calculate the average, like average velocity, like average term, so differentiation also attend with average. Now next important part is when it is, there's one more word that is called instantaneous. Fine. So these are the keyword that you better to notice, because if anything will come in again in a ratio form in mathematics, that is called ratio. But you better to remember ratio. This is a hint key, as you have to use the basic concept of differentiation. Differentiation will give me one important information about slope, but it is in graph. When a graph it is there, the basic differentiation concept we will use in terms of graph. And graph, the important term is slope. Slope is delta y upon delta x. Clear? And another feature, like a by b, when it is t is there, so it is called rate. Example, rate of change of velocity. When x it is there, it is called gradient, like velocity gradient. So these are the key important term that you better to remember. I repeat, delta x, rate, that one word slope, and ratio. So now quickly move to the next part. Now here, basically, let's quickly give you very good example through which you can connect about differentiation. Like here, let's say a car is moving. Fine, a car is moving. Let's say this is point A, this is point B, and this is point C. Let's say over here the velocity of the car is 20 meter per second at a starting moment, and let's say here 30 meter per second, and here 40 meter per second. Clear? And since we have observed everything, so let's take some reference. Let's say this is my coordinate axis, this is x, and let's I have observed car A is xa distance, and afterward it will travel xb, and afterward it will cover xc. Clear? Let's say the time I have started the journey at t is equal to 0. Here t is equal to, let's say, 2, and t is equal to 4. These are the respective times. Now if I have to calculate, uh, okay, so let's say if I'm standing here and I'm asking to the driver by what speed you have drive the car during during the whole journey. Fine, this is the question number one. So what answer the driver supposed to tell to the person? Because he's got confused whether the velocity is 20 or 30 or 40. So don't you feel there's so many data? So when the answer would be not unique speed, but there's a three speeds he might be thinking of. So once more than one speed is there in a different time, so we will use the concept of average. So he will going to give me the average velocity. Fine. So basically average velocity, it would be total distance upon total time. Total distance upon total time, that will give you the average speed. Fine. So whatever the distance it was there in between, let's say here x c minus x a divided by total time, of course tc minus ta. By this way he can get the average velocity. Now you came to know what do you mean by average velocity and when we supposed to use in the course of journey of any body. If it has different velocities during the course of journey, so instead of getting one single velocity, it will be the common velocity. It will going to tell to any person once it's asking by what velocity you are traveling during the course of journey. So here we will use the concept of average. So basically average means different velocity are there for common velocity. Use concept of average. Fine, use the concept of average velocity. And the formula of average velocity is total distance oblique displacement divided by total time. So this is the formula for average velocity. Fine. Now next important thing is what is instantaneous velocity. Instantaneous velocity, let's say once again taking the same example, once the person is starting A, that is B, and that is C. Fine. So here it was 20 meter per second, 30 meter per second, and 40 meter per second. Now you have to express the velocity not during the course of whole journey, but at a particular point. Let's say at point B. So this is a very particular. So at a particular time, specific velocity would be there. Fine. So that velocity at that instant is called instantaneous speed or velocity. So here we can say, if they're asking what is the velocity at point B, so you will directly say 30. So here it is a very specific velocity. But during the course of journey, if the same person will ask you ki what is the course of journey, so you got confused. But if you're asking what is the velocity at point B, so you can able to express your answer very particularly. So this is called as instantaneous velocity. Fine. So average velocity versus instantaneous velocity. So basic difference between average and instantaneous. Here we have different velocity at different points. But here we have a specific velocity at a specific point. Now the second important thing is average. We will use the term, technical term, delta, like delta S upon delta T, that is V average, and V average is delta S upon delta T. Fine. And for A average, we will use delta V upon delta T. But for instantaneous, we will use V instantaneous. We will use instead of delta, it will term D. So ds upon dt, or for A instantaneous, we will use dv over dt. So what the basic difference here, the delta will, it will come for average, and here it will d here d is called as differentiation, like differentiation of x with respect to t. So delta convert into d by d, like here d by dt, let's say. So d by dt is the operator. Fine. So you better to remember, like d by dt of x. So it is read as differentiation of x with respect to t. Let's say d by dx of y. So how we will read it? Differentiation of y with respect to x. So by this way, I thought we can conclude this, and the next we will surely discuss more in detail. I thought differentiation part, it is clear. What do you mean by differentiation? So differentiation will come in calculation of instantaneous speed or velocity. Fine. So next we will detail it in graphical presentation of it. And let me conclude by summing up once again that we have compared what is the differentiation. Differentiation is basically operator through which we have calculated few technical parameter in physics, like instantaneous velocity we have seen, and we have also seen what is the basic meaning, like division, slope, rate. These word we have also understood. So let's conclude, and next I will just go more detail of it. Till then, take care, have a nice day.